And baby, I'm TFC till I die.
Hello and welcome back to Toronto Till I Die, the Toronto FC fan show. I'm Mike Newell, and holy crap, Toronto FC won on the road. Unbelievable scenes. The town was going crazy. Not only did they win, but they won in New England, which is, of course, a graveyard for Toronto FC dreams in the past. This week, we will talk about the win at Foxborough. We'll start our 2024 annual player over-unders. It's a fan favorite. We're bringing that back this year. We'll talk about our favorite Herdman quotes. We'll have a little Matty Longstaff chat. And, of course, we'll get to your responses in this week's burning questions. So much to get into with my co-hosts, Michael Singh and Jeffrey P. Nesker. Guys, how you doing? How are the away win vibes washing over you right now? It's been a long time. It feels like 18 months since we've actually seen an away win. So how are you all feeling?
Hasn't it been 18 months? Like, it shouldn't feel like it. It definitely has been 18 months. So yeah, it feels like it. Vibes are immaculate. This is great. The only thing that brings me down is seeing how many other teams in MLS are on 4 points in 2 games, especially in the East. It felt a lot more special than it actually is.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. So, like, for 90% of that game, I had flashes of just picturing Jeff and what is Jeff thinking watching this game, seeing the Italians put in the shifts that they were putting in. The amount of times, yeah, like I said, it crossed my mind. Jeff, you crack us up. So I'm super fascinated you're back on the show this week because I'd love to hear, some of your reaction from, TFC's first 2 games. It's going to be easy to get carried away because we haven't felt a victory. We haven't felt a victory on the road, as Mike Newell, you just illustrated. So it's going to be easy to get carried away. But once again, it's very much the vibe show this week. So let's keep this going. I love coming on doing this podcast when we're all in a good mood.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Who wants to come in and do a podcast where it's always negative? We basically did a whole calendar year.
Yeah, more than a year.
Yeah, of negative.
Yeah. I mean, there's people are starting to sort of find cracks in the seams, after being, Vibe City for the whole weekend. And there's certainly things to give us pause, and there's certainly, things to maybe lessen the impact a little bit. But no, let's roll, baby. Let's go.
All right, well, let's roll into it. Your Toronto FC come away with a 1-0 victory in New England at Foxborough against the New England Revolution. Look, when you look at the final stats, not all going to be pretty. New England with a lot of the ball, a lot of shots, a lot of opportunities to potentially tie and win this game. But, I mean, in the end of the day, I think the sort of narrative, and not even narrative now, you can't even say it's a narrative, it's now simply a sort of fact that you're seeing it on the pitch. There is definitely at least a fighting cohesion on the pitch amongst the players, that they're not going to just roll over and give away things easily as they did the last couple of seasons. And before we get into sort of the specific beats of the game and things like that, I just wanted to get both of your thoughts on this. Jeff, I'll start with you because obviously you're going to be talking about Sunday's game, but also the home opener as well, because we didn't get your thoughts on that. But just your sort of impressions on the first 2 games of the season and sort of how this team is sort of coming along.
I mean, the first game of the season was squeaky butt time. That was like a 90 plus minutes of squeaky bum time because, let's not undervalue what an amazing start to the season that was. But you felt like that game was in the balance the whole time. A 0-0 draw is still a 0-0 draw. I'm glad that we got the point. And then there was enough. Obviously, this is small sample SFC, but like there was enough in this weekend's game to suggest there's some really good signs moving forward. Unilaterally, I mean, you'll have to forgive me. I'm sort of still coming. I lost some things that I needed to set up my room before, like 2 minutes before we started, so I'm still kind of having an anxiety attack. But
what things did you see, Jeff, in that performance over the weekend, or sorry, yesterday, that led you to believe that there are positive things to come, like positive things to build up? What did you see there?
Kevin Long, unbelievable. I mean, when you're not noticing what he's doing, that means he's doing it correctly. I absolutely love that somebody came up with Long Johnson as the name for the duo of Kevin Long and Sean Johnson. Not just for the reasons that everybody's thinking of right now, but Long Johnson is my absolute favorite of the OG Talking Cats. So I'm all in on that one. Let's go. Shane O'Neill, who knew? What a player. I mean, the man, those runs down the flank, those overlaps are just insane. Raul Petretta, I feel like maybe he found his spot in a back three. We're not seeing a lot of Sigur Rosted. We're not seeing a lot of Mabika. I think he's found his spot in John Herdman's system. Better put that way. I think we're seeing a lot more of him. There were some that one goal line clearance that he made the game yesterday was pretty unbelievable.
Great tracking back.
That latch ditch tackle. Fede as a right back, love it. Richie as a left back, love it. Switching places, love where Lorenzo's finding himself on the pitch. Love the hustle from the DPs. I mean, that can't be understated. Berna absolutely was a man possessed over the weekend. Impressive.
So everything is essentially
pretty much 90 minutes out of Quajo on Sunday, which I thought was great. Davy Flores. I mean, what can we say? Holy ass. The only thing that's lacking is our core of strikers. They're really not doing it, and I'm telling you, man, I think if Owosu's gift of a header had gone in, that scoreline would have been a lot more lopsided in our favor. This is a vibes team right now, and we're coasting on vibes, and you can't miss sitters like that, and then just sort of jog around afterwards. Like I think he should have been subbed out way before the first half was over. His race was run after he missed that sitter, and you could tell in his body language. So there are still issues.
Cool.
Yeah,
you said a lot there. You said a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Let's hone in on kind of. Let's start with the effort level first of all, and the compete level for this Toronto FC team. That's the one thing I think when you ask most fans heading into this year, what is it that we're looking for? What is it that you want to see? And it was a team that leaves it all out there every single time. We're not going to be when it comes to effort level. We're going to see a team that clearly wants to be on the pitch, wants to be there. And I think, from starting with the DPs down to, the Jonathan Osorios, obviously Davy Flores has an impact on that. And then you have guys like Shane O'Neill and Kevin Long at the back, and obviously Sean Johnson. There are a lot of people there who are doing this properly, but then when you have the DPs there who especially are doing this, then that's a good recipe for success. Now, I think it's so important that this team withstood some of those onslaughts of chances, both in Cincinnati and once again at New England. Two very difficult environments, by the way, to go into and pick up points. It's so important that this team withstood that, because we've seen over the past, I don't have enough fingers on my hands to count the amount of times that TFC conceded in those spots over the last 2 seasons. Right? So many times. Yeah. So for this team to go out there and to do this and to feel victory and to feel, a moment of them grouping together and coming together and achieving their goal is so important to start this season, because had that gone wrong, and had a goal been conceded late, who knows what kind of ripple effect that has. Now they have something to seriously build off. So it's such an important start to the year for this Toronto FC team. 4 points from 4 out of possible 6 points from 2 very difficult environments in the road. It can't be overstated just how great of a start this was.
Yeah, and I think it can't be understated.
Sorry,
go ahead. I was just saying, like, I think, like, it can't be understated too. Like, this is the first time the club has ever started the season with 2 consecutive clean sheets, right? Like, it's never happened in the club's history. And I think, look, in the end of the day, this is just 2 games. It is just the start of the season. I think in the first half, what we saw from this team, there were glimpses of real attacking ideas and connections on the pitch that are starting to form. You talk about Shane O'Neill, like, revelation, that cross into Prince Osu my God, that was fantastic, right? You just didn't know he had that in his locker, right? You have no clue. And you're starting to see some of that sort of, it's something that John Herdman talked about prior to the opener, this idea that taking that emotional weight off the players, it seems to be allowing them to express themselves a little bit more. And we'll get into it later in terms of the DPs, because obviously that comes up in the burning question. So we'll save a little bit of the takes there. But look, I think that in a lot of ways, because those shackles have been removed from the players, it feels they feel a lot freer. They feel like they're willing to put in the extra yards in to get the job done. And I just have a note here saying, like, it wasn't pretty. They got the job done. And there's very much a bend but don't break kind of mentality. And in some ways that resembles what we saw with the national teams, both men's and women's, in terms 100%. Of the early days of John Herdman in those teams before he was able to really progress the team to where he wanted to go.
Yeah, I mean, 2 things. One, I can't believe I said let's start at the back, and I didn't mention Sean Johnson, who has been unbelievable. And let's not mince words. He's the reason we won, and he's the reason we have a 0-0 draw. 6 saves, second consecutive MLS match, tying his previous club high of 6 recorded saves on opening day. So Sean Johnson is doing pretty good. And keeping this team in games. The other thing is, I wonder, I can't remember who threw it out, but it was there on the socials. What credence do you give to the take that those were maybe 2 of our toughest away games of this campaign, this MLS campaign?
I think that's fair. I mean, they're 2 teams that made the playoffs last year. 2 teams that are in Champions Cup. Now, you can say something about all the Champions Cup teams right now struggling in MLS play, given the extra fixtures that they have on their calendar. But you're still talking about 2 pretty good teams with 2, both teams having really MVP caliber players that you need to worry about on the pitch, and doing a pretty effective job of limiting their influence on the game. I mean, obviously, Carlos Hill had a really great shot from outside of the box. You could see it coming when it dropped to his left foot. Sean Johnson made a great save on it. But really, I think it speaks to the fact that they were able to go away, have a clear identity. This is one thing we talked about all last year, right? Like this idea of this team having no identity. What is this team? How are they going to play? How do they impose themselves in games? And right now, the imposing yourself hasn't come yet. Obviously, it seems like the eye for that is this coming Saturday, at least trying to be a little bit more attack-minded. But, on the road defensively, they are going to be extremely difficult to break down and extremely difficult to beat. And that is a clear identity that John Herdman has imparted on this team. And it's showing already in the first 2 games of the season.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, no. Result, super important. I will say it's not a recipe for success.
No.
I think when you're, let's just use XG as an example. XG is a bit of a flawed stat, but, we've been outperformed by a goal and a half over the first 2 games, right? When it comes to XG. Now, that doesn't include certain chances that, just quite frankly weren't taken, that weren't put towards goals. So XG, like I said, is a bit of a flawed stat. TFC had chances over the weekend, and, as Jeff kind of illustrated, probably could have been 2-3 goals up before New England really put, one dangerous chance on net. But I think that's worth mentioning. Sean Johnson said this after the game. He said it was, he can't remember the last time he's seen a defensive performance like that. So yes, Jeff, you're right. Sean Johnson was fantastic and made two in particular really incredible saves. The Carlos Gil one, the one off Polster as well. That one was 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Wrist strength.
He was horizontal. He was horizontal.
Yeah.
Still managed to somehow parry that over the net. But it's also the defensive performance that was in front of him too, right? Aside from those, 2 chances, even the Carlos Gil was a bit of brilliance. TFC didn't give up too many clear-cut opportunities. The first game, I actually thought they gave up more chances than they did against this game against New England. Now, 2 very different caliber opponents, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I think Cincinnati is a way better team than New England is. That said, at Gillette Stadium, we know TFC's history there. It's not an easy place to go out there and grind out that result. So I do commend TFC for that. I just think, there's only so many games you can kind of get away with it. So I think you need to improve down the stretch when you do go up a goal and you are defending a lead. You can't be always absorbing so much pressure. There's got to be more. There's got to be a bit more offense. You got to find ways to either hit them on the counter or to find ways to pick up tactical fouls and push the entire team up the field or keep possession under pressure. So that's kind of the next step in this evolution. But like I said off the top, the most important thing for this TFC team was just picking up that result.
And to jump to piggyback on your point, honestly, how surprising was it that Io, instead of taking that breakaway and trying to dribble through defenders at the death, went to go bury it in the corner? I think you're seeing examples of that tenacity of the system sort of starting to happen, right? Like you could see the gears turning in his head. I for sure thought he was going to maraud to the net and try a shot, and I was so impressed.
That was a smart play.
To see that kind of unselfish, smart play. It was one of the highlights of the game for me because I did not think he had it in his toolbox.
Okay, but to be fair, if Io's in the form where he's scoring his 9 goals in 2020, do you think he's heading to the corner flag?
He's going.
No, I don't. I honestly don't think any striker in form or otherwise is going to do that. The part of their job description is having that selfishness. So to see him sort of the gears working and deciding that it was way more important to preserve the win, despite all of his problems, despite the fact that he had a clear breakaway on goal.
A testament to the buy-in, right?
Yeah, it's a testament to the buy-in. Yeah,
definitely a testament to the buy-in. I also, to also jump on your point, Mike, I think that the concern, if you sort of, sorry everybody to burst the vibes bubble a little bit, but in terms of just like in those moments where you need an outlet to get possession of the ball, get up the field, take a little pressure off the defenders, that's where that number 9 can come in play, and you just don't have that right now.
Nope.
Who can hold the ball up, who can just relieve and be an outlet for your team, and you don't have that right now. Like between Owosu and Io, you don't really, one can hold the ball up, but isn't really isn't quite gelled yet with his teammates. The other one, the touch is just not there to be able to do that. So I think, you get up in a situation where basically that entire second half, if you look at sort of like the possession breakdown of the second half and sort of the momentum swings of the second half on this stat graph, it's all New England. Really the only time there was a real effort is when Osorio put it off the crossbar. So,
what a shot.
Was what a shot. I thought that was going in.
Me too.
So, I mean, that is a cause for concern. But again, like, I think that on the road in your second game, as a team is starting to gel under a new system, sometimes you just need to sort of swallow that one and take the win, right? And
100%.
Sort of just go with it.
You take this. Nobody on planet Earth expected us to be in this position, including the 3 of us. So
that's my question.
You take it. Yeah.
What's the question?
So given these 2 first results for Toronto FC, we picked up 4 points out of a possible 6. Has your vision for this team's ceiling? Has it shifted? Do you
Of
think this
course it
team
has.
has a higher ceiling than what what you initially anticipated, Jeff? You said, of
This
course,
is
it
the
has.
game. This is the game we've been playing with John Herdman for a while. Remember when he was like, "Hey, why can't we go to the World Cup?" And we were all like, "Ha ha 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 ha!" We keep getting fooled by this guy and his outlandish statements, and it was double this season because every pundit on the planet placed TFC dead last repeat as wooden spoon champs, and we were bringing our own baggage into it. So absolutely it has, because I did not expect these two games, and there's a lot of issues. Don't get me wrong. This is not a perfect squad, and you can see where it's not working and where it could work better. But I mean, this is backflip land. Like, nobody expected to be here. I worry if it's sustainable, same as you. I worry what happens when the first instance of a roadblock or negative energy impugns on the squad, whether it's all going to fall apart, all the things that we're worried about. But I mean, you take this and you go into the home opener with all of the positivity that you've managed to accrue, and you hope that you can
100%.
maintain it. Yeah.
You mentioned Herdman there, and kind of his goals and his statements. What's funny is he was downplaying this just as much as anyone else. So I'd be fascinated to kind of be a fly on the wall and see what Herdman actually surprised by this start. Obviously, he sets those goals for his team to go out there and pick up their first point in Cincinnati ever, or to go get a win in New England if that was their goal. But I wonder if he's impressed by TFC's start to this campaign, given the fact there really wasn't much change to this roster. But we'll get into a little bit more, as the show goes on, to some of those changes.
I mean,
also,
boys, nobody wins at Foxborough. Nobody does.
Yeah.
It's like a house of horrors. It's crazy. Most teams plan around maybe getting a draw, or most likely getting a loss, and just moving on with your season. So, I mean, this is dreamland. Dreamland.
Definitely take it. My ceiling on this team has not changed. I still don't see it as a playoff team, but I mean, that could change, right? Obviously, you have to wait for additions and subtractions subsequently to see really what this team will end up being. But right now, it's still not a playoff team. Okay, you get 2 great results on the road. That's great. As you mentioned, the play currently right now is not quite sustainable, but I mean, I expect that to get better over time. But I still don't know if this is a playoff team. Until you can get a number 9, can you get somebody who can pot those chances that you create, that we're starting to find, spaces to create on down the flanks, especially right now on the left. I just don't see a playoff team at the moment. So right now, nothing is kind of changed at this point. But we'll see, right? Like, obviously, I'm happy to be wrong, but,
Are you? Because that's lunch. If you're wrong, remember.
Hey, you know what? Hey, if they make the playoffs, I'm still sticking to it. I'm buying lunch, but
Mikey's a cheap date, man. He only wants beef on his tacos. That's like $2.
Yeah, right now, yeah. I think my money's still safe in the piggy bank. Okay, let's talk first just the Insigne goal, the goal itself. That's the kind of goal that you pay a DP for, right? Like, that's the kind of moment of inspiration you're looking for in a game where you're trying to find that breakthrough. And look, you could talk about it. Some people I saw online saying it's not really that hard of a goal. Like, you try tripping a goalkeeper with that kind of accuracy. Yes, he got a lot of time in the box, but you still got to execute. And that's where you really see that sort of DP class come through.
Yeah, he showed his quality 100%. Like, he made it look so easy, and it sure as hell isn't. Plus, chip goals are just so beautiful. The way they kind of hang and then sort of fade, and then you get to watch the soul leave the goalkeeper. It's just so arrogant and so much fun, and I'm so glad it happened.
Yeah, what I thought of, you remember that Pozuelo goal? His debut? Josie joked with me, he's like, the cross? So that's the first thing that kind of popped in my head, is like, look at that goal. I'm like, was that meant to be a ball for the far post? And then you remember, Lorenzo Insigne did this for a living for,
Mhm.
10 years, 12 years before he came to TFC. You've even seen, flashes of it. That's his shot. He looks for that kind of stuff.
Yep.
So the goal was, class. And that's what TFC paid for. They paid for a bit of brilliance from time to time. And that was brilliant, right? He
Yep.
took a touch and right away he knew what he was doing, and to execute it
Yep.
at that level, that's what you pay your big money for. So that was
That
great.
Selly sucked, however. That Selly sucked. Don't ever do it
Yeah.
again. Yeah.
Who
Yeah,
thought
no, he
who
got me
really
for a
thought that was
second.
an actual, like, I knew that was like,
Oh,
did
and I
it,
thought
people
I
really
thought
thought it
for a
was?
second. I looked away and I looked back up and I see Insigne like holding his arm. Like, we've been there too many
Mhm.
times, man. I don't want to
Yeah,
do
yeah,
this
don't,
again.
don't.
Here we
It's
Fair.
go.
going around football, right? Like I heard Granit Xhaka did it, and like pretty much anybody that's
It's a
like a
trend.
injury risk is doing it now just to piss off soccer
That's
fans, make
hilarious.
our blood pressure go sky high. So yeah, let's not do that yet, Insigne.
I also I wanna give a quick shout out to Raul Petretta on that goal too. The dummy on that
Yeah.
goal,
Yep.
Yeah.
to know
Yeah,
that
it was
Insigne is
stupid.
right behind you to, draw your defender, even buy Insigne that extra half second if that's what it is for him to take a touch and put that in the far corner. I mean, that's a heads up play, and that's a guy
Yep.
who knows Insigne very well. They have a good relationship there down that left-hand side. And, we didn't even kind of mention this. I really want to emphasize this. This was a victory without, Richie Larea. Right?
Hmm.
Yep.
Richie Lore is arguably is one of this team's most important players. Not even arguably, it is. He is one of this
Yep.
team's most important players. Could be the best player on any given day. So to do that on the road without a guy like Richie, to still have that fight, to still have that, energy, that battle. I mean, yeah, it was a great performance. And even, if we want to talk about Insigne as a whole a little bit, Jeff, you touched on that play about Raul Petretta
Mhm.
breaking up that tackle, sliding back. I mean, the first person back on that play was Lorenzo Insigne,
Didn't you? Yeah.
right?
Unbelievable,
So
unbelievable hustle. It was ridiculous.
setting the tone, right? These are the things that we asked for heading into the season. We quite frankly didn't quite believe that we would get is that relentless kind of buy-in to just doing all the things to help this team win. It was never a case of, I think, in Sydney, always just looking for his own goals. His he honestly, since he started, he probably gave more effort defensively than we give him credit to. But it's like
Mhm.
plays like that in particular that really stand out and really catch the eye of your teammates and obviously the eye of the supporters as well. So to do stuff like that, I think consistently now, that's a good start and you know, doing all the right things from a mentality standpoint.
Yeah, I'll also give a shout
Absolutely.
out to Bernardeschi as well, because he did the same thing. He tracked back
Mhm.
like 60 yards to win a ball back as well, right? And
Unbelievable.
and look,
Unbelievable.
and I think we've all said it on this show, right? Like, we wanted to see the buy-in, we wanted to see proof, right, before we start to forgive. In
Mhm.
terms of that, in terms of the DPS, and so far they've delivered. You have to put your hands up and say that they have.
Yep.
Again,
Mhm.
it's a long season. We got a lot of games to go. But it looks promising right now. And also Bernardeschi as a right wing back. Yes, defensively, still not quite there yet. But of course, you're not
Even a
paying him
left wing back
necessarily. Yeah, yeah, and well,
Yeah.
yeah,
late
he
in the
did,
game.
right? Like, he switched at one
Shifted.
point, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like,
The overlaps.
defensively, still, something to be left desired. However, you can't fault the effort and the ability for him to start running from deep and catch those balls on the run is actually making a really big difference, because
I
it's getting
agree.
him into better spots to be able to either create something for himself
Mhm.
or find his teammates. And
But
in that almost led to the second goal, or I guess it would have been the first goal. It was before Insigne chip, with
Mhm.
Uwosu, and then obviously the one that was called offside. But you're starting to see that kind of that sort of setup work really well.
yeah, the knock on Bernardeschi was never work rate. I think every single time he was out there on the pitch, he was one of the hardest working players on the pitch. The knock on Bernardeschi is at times how selfish he could have been, and maybe lost the trust of his teammates last year, right? Trying to do a bit too much on his own. We're seeing
Mhm.
less and less
Yep.
of that this year. And if I look at some of the numbers from the game against New England, I'm gonna guess he only turned the ball over 7 times, which is such a low number for Bernardeschi. Let me tell you, there were times last season where that was, high
Double digits.
20s,
Yeah.
high 20s, in terms of the number of times Bernardeschi turned the ball over. So yes, he's got that buy-in. He is adapting to his new role. There were times where he's put in positions to defend 1v1, did a very good job. There's one time where he got caught cheating and gambling near the end of the game, which was like, maybe don't step in there and be a little bit less risky. But overall, I really like this change and shift to wing back for Bernardeschi, because it does put him less of a weight on his shoulder to create offensively. Before it was kind of all on him. Now it's, you're asking the team to do that. And if you're going to get the team to kind of do that collectively, and then maybe that's a way to kind of open up, I guess, the game as a whole for this team moving forward. It hasn't happened yet, but at least there's a shift in mentality there.
Yeah, all signs point to yes. It does feel like, the goals are coming, whereas before we had no idea. It does. And if you look at the chat, people are vouching for Prince, people are vouching for all of our strike core. That's the general impression, is that we feel like they're like positive moves are being made. The goals aren't here yet, aside from the outrageous chip, but it feels a lot closer. It feels that they're closer to figuring it out.
Fair point. 2 quick points here on the game before we go into our one good, one bad, one thing to improve. Was it a penalty? 22nd minute. There was a VAR shout. New England is very, very insistent that it's a penalty. You guys, you're both shaking your head saying no.
No, I think Davy Flores got the ball before. I think the broadcast was saying that it was, I forget how to pronounce his name, but he is so
Chunkai?
good. Is that what it is?
Or was it the young kid? Oh no, it was their young academy kid. I can't remember.
Was
Baraktarovich
or something like that.
Baraktarovich. Yeah. I think
by the way,
we'll go with that.
He's a baller. He is so good. But anyways, the broadcast was saying he touched the ball first. I think it was Davy Flores who might have touched the ball first. When it goes to VAR and it's that close, I think the referee actually gets that call right, because it was not clear and definitive if it was an error. So I don't think it was a pen.
I agree for all the reasons that you just said. Yep.
Fair enough. I in the moment I actually thought he caught him. But once they showed it in VAR, then no, it showed that Davey just got a toe in there before.
My reaction was actually the opposite. I was like, that was not a foul when it happened. And then when I saw the replay, I'm like, oh, he actually did, step on his foot. But thankfully, like I said, I think he got the ball first.
Yeah, so. in the sort of the quick moment, I thought it was, and then when they saw when they went to the replay, I'm like, oh no, he got it. So no, that makes sense. But if you talk to the guys in New England, they are very insistent.
It's a 50-50. It could have gone any way. What I don't like about these replacement refs, if I can just sort of jam this in there, is they seem to be overwhelmingly card happy. TFC are carrying a whole whack of yellows into game 3, and I don't think we are an island here. I think they are brandishing their cards like nobody's business. It's very arbitrary with the mass confrontation nonsense. I it's to be expected, but I do think that would be my chief complaint against the replacement refs, is that they're way too happy to put cards out.
Yeah, fair. I mean, no sort of referee talk scheduled on this one, but I will say that, hey, look, they possibly really messed up a game. Houston and Philly this weekend.
I thought you were going to say Seattle last weekend, Seattle, LA last week.
Well, yeah, that too, but just this week, because I was watching the end of that game, and they might have cost Houston all 3 points. But neither here nor there for this show. Really quick.
TFC leads the league in yellow cards through 2 games.
They do.
By the way.
Oh, really? Wow. Okay, so we are hey, at least we're in the lead on something, but that's no good.
Yeah. Thoughts on Nixon Gomes, his debut today? I know some people in the chat were just shouting him out as well. I thought he looked great for a first outing. It was cramping, I think, at the end, so I don't know if there's anything there to note. But yeah, I mean, he looked great. I thought his passing was actually quite good, which I really liked, and I think he stepped into things quite well throughout the game. But just your guys' thoughts really quick on Gomez's debut.
He's a
I
unit,
think,
isn't he?
yeah,
He's
go
a
ahead,
big
Jeff.
boy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought his positioning was a little off at times. I think his ball control is fantastic. Call it first match jitters. Nobody can have a worse first match than Mavinga, so he's still doing fine. But yeah, I he's young and he needs to figure out just where he fits in that sort of mosaic of Long and O'Neill. And I think there were some testy moments, but overall it was a pretty solid debut.
Yeah, I had to remind myself a couple of times that this young man, let's call him, is 21 years old. I thought he didn't look out of place at all, in my opinion. I thought, Jeffy said his positioning. I kind of disagree. I think there are moments where I'm like, maybe you're straying a bit too far wide, or there's a bit of a gap there. But I thought overall his position was actually pretty sound for someone playing in their first Major League Soccer game in a back three.
That's fair.
I'd actually disagree with Mike. I didn't love his passing. I thought there were times where he had a bit of tunnel vision, I guess, let's call it. He could have easily had a bunch of time, could have just looked over his shoulder. He has the whole, field around him, but he's kind of stuck on this one little corner of the field he was trying to play the ball into. So, I mean, that stuff will come as you learn the system and you learn the team a little bit more. That was a moment where he was inverted and played as a central midfielder, which I'm sure is not something he's, probably comfortable with. And he was a bit more on the right side, and obviously he's a left-sided defender. Mm-hmm. So that kind of stuff. He's got the frame to be a center back. He's got a little bit of skill to, kind of hang as one of those outside center backs, something we talked about a bit last week in terms of the type of profile you're probably looking for as that, left-sided center back or right-sided center back. And a little bit more pace than your center backs. He's a little bit slower than I thought he was. We'll see. Kind of, I want to see a little bit more. Obviously, that's on turf, a different type of.
Yeah, surface. I'm glad you mentioned that. I think, and Rob's saying it in the chat, and I think it's valid. Maybe one, it's his debut in Major League Soccer, and two, you're playing at Foxborough on maybe the worst playing surface in the history of football. So, maybe some of his decisions were mitigated by the fact that he didn't want to get found out on turf. And so he was playing it a lot safer than his game would allow. So I agree. I agree that I want to see more. This it was never going to be a way to get a full grade out of him anyway. And the turf makes it even more difficult to properly assess his skill level. Sure. But he certainly played well given those extenuating circumstances.
Yeah, solid debut. Definitely one of our better center backs. I think a good signing at 21 years old. Herdman said after the game that he's got more to offer offensively, kind of alluding to, we'll see when, they're not on turf to see he can contribute more offensively. So I'm looking forward to that. He had a nice moment in the first half where he got up and delivered a nice cross, found a, I think it ended up falling to Bernardeschi, who put it over. But it was a really good, smart area, good delivery on the cross. So we'll see, if he can get involved a little bit more, as Herdman likes to, as he says, invert his wingers, which could potentially create opportunities for those outside center backs to get in positions to deliver crosses. So yeah, we'll see how exactly he develops here at TFC. But first impression, it's a good signing. Second impression is creates a little bit of a logjam, right? Richie Lara comes back next week. And who do you drop out of that? Let's call it a back five, right? You have Bernardeschi there. You have Shane O'Neill, Kevin Long. You have obviously now Gomez and Petretta, and then
Richie.
Yeah, it's I mean, it's a good problem to have.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say.
It's a good problem to have.
Yeah, out of the problems, this is the good one to have.
Yeah, I would maybe it's a situation. I don't know if you want Larea that far back, but maybe it's a situation where O'Neill comes out of the lineup and Richie Larea plays at home as a right side
out on
center
that
back.
Form right now, the way he's playing.
It's not an easy decision. I get the impression that John Herdman likes to plan for specific games and specific opponents. So I think it's who works in that, when he's drawing up the whiteboard.
Hey, come on, Mike. We just spent like 20 minutes talking about Shane O'Neill last episode. We had a whole Shane O'Neill section. Now you want to bench the man?
No, what was my thing? My thing with Shane O'Neill is that he's a very solid, reliable player, which you know what you're going to get out of Shane O'Neill. A fantastic leader, checks all the boxes in terms of personality, and he's a winner. I just think they could find someone who's better suited in that role. And again, I don't want to take anything away from him because his first 2 games he's been, one of the top performers on this team. I just think there's a different profile that you can unlock at that position that fits it better.
100%. But you got to work with what you got right now. What you got is Shane O'Neill playing like freaking Paulo Maldini and Vince.
Especially when you want to park the bus a little bit too, and on the road, you're absorbing a lot of pressure. That's Shane O'Neill's was really important for
chat saying 2-man midfield, no Alonso, which is
for the opener. Yeah. Well, we'll get into that in a second because we'll talk about the man who might replace him in midfield, according to the chat, but we'll see. Okay, guys, I want to grab one good thing, one bad thing from this game, and one thing that you want to see improve before the home opener. In this round, I think I'll actually go ahead and I'll start with Mr. Singh. Can I grab one good thing, one bad thing, and one thing to improve on for the home opener?
We spoke a lot, and we've covered a lot of really good things already for this team. If I'm going to pick one, let's say Kevin Long. So I really liked Kevin Long's game. I thought he was such an important part of this team's defense. He stepped to a lot of balls. Had a lot of clearances in this game as well. I think he had something around 9 clearances. It just felt like he was everywhere. Here it is. 9 clearances, 3 block shots. They only gave him 1 tackle, was only dribbled past once. Had a lot of aerial duels, which he won. I really liked his game as somebody who came in as advertised, really. Like, you need a guy who's going to put out all the fires and be the guy who's going to be always challenging in the air, and he looks like a true leader out there, and he's leading by example when it comes to this team's defense. So I'm going to pick Kevin Long there.
Fair enough. One sort of one bad thing that you may want to point out from this game that you just didn't sit right with you.
Oh, you're going all 3 for me right now.
Yeah, I'll go all 3.
One thing that didn't quite sit right for me. Again, I mentioned it. It's this team's the way that this team kind of, I don't want to say folded because they didn't fold, but sat back and absorbed a ton of pressure. We saw a glimpse of it in Cincinnati, and there were moments of it through this game. I need to see what this team plays like when they have possession, they have the ball, when they're playing against a team that isn't going to be, attacking. We got to see a different style of football out of this team. That we haven't seen yet, which is fair. It's just based on, those are away games in MLS. Sometimes that's the way it goes, especially at 2 difficult places. But I haven't seen enough from this team going forward yet. So, when they do play at home, what kind of football are they going to be playing? That's just the question that I guess I have.
All right, awesome. And then the last one improvement for the home opener.
Yeah, I mean, very obvious one. I said I was buying his stock last week. I should have waited until this week because that stock dropped even lower. It was the performance of Prince Owusu. Listen, I want to reiterate this. I'm not that performance. Didn't do him any favors in terms of gaining the trust of John Herdman. Heck, I don't even know if he'll, have the opportunity to start the home opener depending on the form of or health of DeAndre Kerr. I still think he has a lot of really good starting points, and I still think there is something there for Prince Owusu. But he did not have a good match, so that's something I'd like to see improved.
Yeah, fair enough. Jeff, over to you. One good, one bad, one improved.
Changed it about 16 times in chicken scratch. So good is the buy-in. I mean, it's crazy. Bad is the potential that we're going to get 45 minutes of Lorenzo for most games, if that. And improve, the precipitous drop off in terms of when we started making substitutions. The team lost its attacking nous. I don't know if that was about the game states. I'm willing to offer up a margin for game states and what the plan was, but that's 2 games in a row where, once the substitutions start happening, the team feels a hell of a lot weaker. So that's something I'd like to see improved.
Okay, fair enough. And for me, the good, honestly, the buy-in from the DPs, right? Like, again, 2 games in, we're going to see how it goes. But right now, that's good, right? Because it's lifting everyone else. And that's what you wanted these guys to do in the first place, is overall make everybody else around you better. And I think they're doing that in the first 2 games. So that is a positive. Obviously, good to get Lorenzo off and scoring early on in the season. Give him a little bit of confidence there. The bad, obviously, is just the drop-off in the second half. And again, Jeff, that speaks to sort of your point around game states and trying to see out a result on the road. But there are times where this team gets badly outpossessed and can lose the ball and have a hard time winning it back. And that is a little concerning. We'll see about that for the home opener. They may sort of change the way that they aggressively press and things like that to win the ball back.
Yeah,
you would suspect so. But I mean, just based off these 2 games, that's one thing that I don't think is bad. And I think just in improvement, I think it's just those, and again, it's going to come with time, but those final actions in the attacking third, right? Like, there are some good ideas. You can see it, especially in the first half of Sunday's game. Like, you saw good ideas, opportunities to play people in. It's that final ball to really give yourself a really good scoring chance. I mean, again, we talked about Wosu missing a chance and one was offside, obviously, but that's something that you want to see improve in the home opener. Those opportunities just get buried so you can give the crowd something to really feed off of and sort of carry you to a result over 90 minutes.
Forget the crowd. I mean, the players on the pitch feed off that.
But they feed off the crowd too, right? Like,
absolutely,
it's kind of going to go hand in hand.
Yeah.
I think it's unanimous. Maybe not unanimous. I'm not sure, but the TTID man of the match day was Sean Johnson. I know Mikey had a shouts for a few other players, but I think we went with Sean Johnson on this one. I mean, 6 saves. He's in the team of the week again for the 2nd week in a row. And whatever he's doing for wrist strengthening exercises, man, keep it up, bro.
Keep it up.
There's
a bad joke in there somewhere, but, right?
Unreal.
Yep.
Unreal. Really quickly, before we get into the John Herdman, heard as a word quote of the week. New signing this week from TFC. Probably one of the worst kept secrets throughout training camp. Matty Longstaff, former Newcastle United midfielder, now signed with TFC. Is it a season and an option, or is it a guaranteed 2 years? I thought it was a season.
2 years and an option.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's 2 and an option, 2 plus 1.
Awesome. So Matty Longstaff in. Mike, I know you wanted to talk about him a little bit. Sounded really, enthused to be here from the press conference.
Of course he is.
And obviously he's coming back from a major ACL injury. In terms of his recovery. So probably that's why you didn't see him on turf this week, because that turf, I mean, that might as well have been beach soccer they were playing. Just how slow the ball was rolling. Matty Longstaff, Mike Singh, I know you want to talk to him about him, so take it away.
Yeah, I love this signing for Toronto FC. I absolutely love this signing. There's question marks about his health coming back from ACL injury. ACLs are not the same as what they used to be. I think we've seen time and time again that there have been numerous examples of players who recover quite, to 100% from ACL injuries. So I'm not overly concerned with that. What I do love about this signing is, well, one, we'll call him a former Premier League player, but not as many, a handful of appearances for Newcastle in the Premier League. But he comes up through that Premier League academy system, right? And the quality of a player coming up through a Premier League academy system in comparison to Major League Soccer players, you'll notice a difference. You'll notice a difference in his touch. You'll notice a difference in the way he reads the game. You'll notice a difference in his passing ability. But not only that, what you like about Matty Longstaff is his work rate. That's when I remember when Man United fan and Matty Longstaff I think it might have been his debut against United
debut.
when he scored. But it wasn't the goal that really stood out to me. It was his effort level and how relentless he is. And he's a guy who, when your team's not the best team on the pitch, he's a guy who can work his tail off and make up for some of that differences. So TFC, as we talked about, one of the things that they were missing last season was energy, and we love Davy Flores because he sets the tone with that energy. We love Richie Lorea because he brings that like intangible energy you have on the pitch. Matty Longstaff does that too. So you couple the quality of Matty Longstaff with the energy, and it gives TFC a more of a box-to-box midfielder that can go up and down the pitch, that can get stuck in a little bit more. It's a different type of profile in their midfield, which they don't quite have. So at just 23 years of age, they're banking on I would call this, a low risk, high reward sort of signing here. So, I love it for all those reasons.
You got me sold. Let's go for it. I mean, low risk from a TFC perspective. Like, I don't think the salary is going to be super high. From a, hey, you see what you get. You get a high energy player who's going to give you real quality minutes in the midfield. Absolutely, why not, right? And more competition in those spots, I think the better, right? In terms of just making everybody else around him better. So from that perspective, why not make the signing and see where you go? Now, got to get another. Okay, fine. He was struggling in League Two. Okay,
was he? I'm not going to pretend like I watch a ton of League Two because I don't.
He was.
Was he struggling?
That goal against Man United was 2019.
At the end of the day, was he struggling in League Two? Maybe. But again, I would want to see. I think that what he could bring to the
in 16 appearances.
Yeah.
In 21-22, and then he had 7 games and went down injured last year. I don't know. I don't know. Like, I didn't watch League Two. I'm not sure many people do watch League Two over here. So
isn't Wrexham in League Two? I think everybody watches League Two.
Well, they only jumped in this year. So.
Yeah.
But look, I think at the end of the day, again, more competition in the midfield is just better, right? Like, it will make it, the idea is you're trying to push people. For the last couple of years, it's been pretty much plug and play in terms of who's going to be in the midfield, right? You kind of know who those players are going to be. Competition, again, will just push people a little bit more. Jeff, it's your time. We blew it last week. with
we're doing that. You don't want me to talk about Matty Longstaff? Good, because I have thoughts on Matty, but like
I want to hear them. What are your thoughts?
Go. Rob.
No,
I'll reserve my opinion on Long Schlong until he plays. No, I'm reserving my opinion. One, if it's blocking Alonso Cuejo, which I hate, it might cost him some minutes, which I can't stand, because I bought all the stock in Cuejo, who's already fighting for minutes. And two, I mean, this team's got an injury problem, so signing players recovering from injury and expecting our medical science team to load manage them back to health is not the greatest of bets. And also, how many more reclamation projects, right? Like, does John Herdman forming a therapy group? Like, how many more distressed assets can this team take in its redemption arc before the whole S house goes up in flames? I'm just worried that it may be one person too many, and again, it's a very tenuous. I love that kiss, the Berna Herdman kiss, but we're not that far removed from what we expected to happen this year, and it wasn't just. I just think you don't want to look a gift horse in the mouth with our DPs. You want to give them players, not more reclamation projects, when they're a reclamation project themselves. It just feels like there's something about it that could all go wrong. And I guess that's the point of a low risk, high reward.
I don't get what there isn't to like. He's 23 years old. He's brings again a different profile to the team. There's doesn't seem like there's much risk, and he has upside. Like it's not like they're signing a random 23-year-old we haven't heard of, or they're signing a guy who made a bit of a name, I guess. Let's say in the Premier League. You were right, a long time ago. But 23, like he's younger than Alonso Coelho.
I know. This bothers me because I have a feeling that Alonso is gonna get the Matty Longshaft or whatever the hell.
That's so good.
Like there's a part of it. I'm
don't we need depth
my
though?
opinion. We need depth, but they also need to have both.
But he's too good
and be ready to step into a role. Like, I mean, I don't know if this guy's match fit. I don't know if he's nursing a knock. I don't know. I loved when you said ACLs aren't as bad as they used to be. The experience at TFC, however, is ACLs destroy players. So it's a big world out there, and there have to be players that are in possession of both knees that are also available. So why are we going with a guy with one? It feels like an unnecessary risk.
I'll tell you why. We're a wooden spoon team that people.
I'll tell you why.
He's a Jordy right now.
And Herdman wants guys that he can wax poetic about Aaron Shearer's goal exploits with on the bench, while coaching. He could be amazing. We'll see what happens. Right now, I'm not so convinced. But I reserve the right to be unbelievably impressed by his Premier League pedigree.
Fair enough. Like I mean, again, low risk, and and at the end of the day, if you can build him into something, a little bit of something, you might be able to move him on, whether it's back to England or somewhere in MLS who may want him, right? Like again, at that age,
this is what I mean. Does his noose to now build him back up, sell him off, usurp, like scoop JMR? Like, are they now paying less attention to doing the same thing with JMR because suddenly we've got to do it for Matty Longstaff? It feels like he's stepping in front of Cuejo's minutes. He's getting in the way of the development of JMR for the same purposes. Like, we had a laundry list of things to do before he was part of the equation, and now it seems like all of those things are now taking a backseat again to new hotness that sort of usurps all.
I don't think that's exactly true.
He's too good, is what you're saying? Like we should have sent a player that was like.
I'm saying he's got the big shiny of the one goal he scored against Man United almost 5 years ago, or actually 5 years ago, and I don't like the tunnel vision that may be introduced with respect to getting in the way of the other things that we wanted to do.
I get what you're saying, Jeff. I just think, like, look, we're talking about 2 games in. There will be a lot of games that this team needs to play between Leagues Cup, between Canadian Championship. You're going to need minutes, and Alonso Cuejo, all due respect to him, can't play them all, right? And you need some depth there. And look, I love Kosi. I don't know if Kosi's exactly the guy that you're going to be wanting to lean on for all those, pick up those minutes. Brandon Cervania is still out, right? Like, you do need some depth in the midfield. I know that may not have been the most pressing thing at the moment.
Yeah, Latif Blessing exists. Exactly. Like,
sure. But I mean, like, at the same time, like, there's good times that maybe John Herdman doesn't even rate Latif Blessing, right? Like, that's a reality of things too.
Rate Latif Blessing, or else I don't think he'd be a part of Toronto FC anymore.
I mean, 2019, when Matty Longstaff was lighting the world on fire, guess who was lighting MLS on fire whilst playing for Los Angeles Football Club? His name's Latif Blessing. I mean, why does one reclamation project suddenly usurp the other one? This is what I'm saying.
One has a much higher
ceiling. Reclamation project, though.
I open with that. At a certain point, you just want somebody there that isn't sucking all the energy towards, this and that goal. Is just the Kevin Long of the midfield, right?
I don't really see that here. Like, I don't know if it's distracting from anything, really.
But like, you're saying you'd rather Latif Blessing and give him the minutes than Matty Longstaff, a former Premier League Academy graduate.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that this temptation for the new shiny to supersede everything else that's on the table, I find a bit myopic. And I'm not sure that Matty was the answer. I think he was, another target of opportunity as opposed to a target.
I think it's very rare where you get a 23-year-old former Premier League player that wants to come play in Major League Soccer. I think
it's rare for a reason, and
Sure.
we may find out. We may find out why it's rare for a reason.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. We've probably spent way more talking about Matty Longstaff's knees than anybody would have thought we would have. But all right, Jeffy, let's do this. We've got our weekly Herdman curve. Play that clip. Herd is the word. Let's do it.
Let's go.
Can I see that paper for a sec? Huh, that's odd. What are you talking about? Oh, have you not heard? Heard what? Heard the word. Heard the word. Don't you know about the herd? Surfing!
Anything can happen in football these days.
There we go. Beauty.
I love
as it slowly comes out of its cocoon and becomes its beautiful butterfly. So I picked for us this week, and let's do your shout first, Mikey Singh.
So the turnaround, yes, they'll get some time off, but they've never won on the road for a long time. So I think I'm going to have to give them a day off just to recover from tonight. So I'm going to let them celebrate because it's important we do that. It's a big moment, a big step for this team.
There we go. That's a decent shout. Here's mine.
Yeah, I mean, it's an amazing league. I mean, I think that's the beauty of this league. You get to come in and play in the New England Patriots Stadium, where Super Bowls have been in the trophy cabinet. It's amazing, surreal, to be honest.
All right. And then bringing it up.
Can't wait to get in front of those fans because I feel like I said this right at the beginning. The team had to build trust. They had to build trust back with the fan base. And all the fans, when I went to the fan engagement night, they just wanted to see the effort. They wanted to see effort. They wanted to see that resilience, that resolve, and the fight.
All right. So we've got enthusiasm in all three clips. I'm going to defend mine because that stadium is garbage to playing soccer. And he waxed poetic about the New England Patriots, which I thought was an amazing non sequitur. What does the chat say? There can only be one winner. And who do we think it is?
I don't think anyone understood the game.
The game is the best John Herdman quote.
I'm going to defend mine.
Week.
I'll defend mine.
All right.
Home opener. I mean, look, he as we've said about John Herdman many times, he is a man. He's a master motivator. He's a guy who can get people to buy in. And he's trying to get fans to buy into this club. It wasn't in the particular quote that you had up there, Jeffy, but, he did talk about the fact that, he wants fans to sort of, kind of leave 2023 behind and sort of just bring it all to the stadium in 2024. And look, he's doing his part to try to get people back in. So and bought back into what he's trying to build with TFC. So for mine, I'm going for the win there, just simply because he's trying to get all of us TFC sickos that have been sitting here for an hour and 3 minutes. Waxing about Matty Longstaff's knees and Nixon Gomes passing percentages. It bought into what he's trying to do.
All right, Mikey.
I don't remember what my quote was.
That's right, because I chose it for you. All right, this will get better. This was a pretty good soft launch. Let's go with 3 because we've got the most from the chat. So, Mike Newell, you are the winner of this week's Herd is the Word. There you go.
Hey.
It's in the name. It's in the name. It's in the name.
Exactly.
It's in the name. Home opener, big time. All right. Let's quickly go through because again, I think the first segment took a little longer than we thought. But that's all good because there's lots to talk about after a road win. But our player over-unders, Mike Singh, once again, you are bringing this to life.
Man, this is a super episode. This is super fun.
Super big episode. You did these last year. This was a fan favorite. People really loved us doing this, and then obviously showing how horribly wrong we were with all our picks at the end of the season. But
that's why we started it late this year, was because
Exactly.
to give us a little bit more intel, so we can make a bit more educated decisions here on our over.
Lorenzo and Insigne over and under a single goal in the chip. Bing, doot doot. All right, let's go.
All right, so over unders. We're gonna do 5 players this episode. We'll keep kind of going through it as we do, more episodes. So, Jeff mentioned it there. Lorenzo Insigne is gonna be the guy that we're starting with. So, I have his over under set this year at 10.5 goals for the over under for Lorenzo Insigne. So he's on pace to score. He was on pace last season to score 7 goals. He ended up finishing with 4 goals in 1,500 minutes, 18 starts. In 2022, he was on pace to score 15 goals, 6 goals in 900 minutes, 11 starts. So I'm going to ask you guys, will Lorenzo Insigne score at least 11 goals this season? Jeff, let's start with you.
Under. I've been hurt before. I got to take the under. I'm sorry. It's only 2 weeks. I've been hurt before. Sorry,
fair.
guys.
That is fair.
Mike, what do you think?
This is a tough one because it depends on whether or not he's going to take
Chat's
penalties.
split.
Yeah,
the chat's evenly split.
It depends on if he's going to take
don't
penalties.
win penalties. TFC
Well,
don't
with
win
Richie
penalties.
now, Richie now, you're going to win penalties because you got Richie now.
Load management means over. I love it.
I'm gonna get burned again and say over. I'm gonna say over. The vibes are strong. There is buy-in. And I have no real scientific or calculative way to say this other than let's go over.
It's all feel, man. It's all feel.
Vibe City.
Chat's on fire with these. You guys
Chat's
like
on fire. I want to see this kind of energy for hurt is the word. Asshole.
I'm gonna go under. For all the opposite reasons why people are saying in the chat. People like the load management. It's working. I'm gonna go under because I don't think he's going to play as many minutes as he needs to potentially eclipse that mark. So let's go under.
Fair enough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But if he takes penalties, though.
If it looked like he's going to take the penalty because when Richie went down that first game and they had the referee initially called the penalty, I think he went to go grab the ball.
Yeah.
So it does look like he will take penalties. I just TFC win no penalties at all.
Danny, ouch.
I mean, we'll see. I hope they win one soon.
Hurt is the word has a great personality. F you, Danny. All right.
Okay.
Anyway, next.
Kobe Franklin. So I have his over under set at 1,750 minutes this season. 1,750 minutes. Last season, for context, he logged 2,172 minutes. So pretty decently over that, about 4 games over that. So far this year, he's just played 65 minutes in 2 appearances. So will Kobe Franklin log more or less than 1,750 minutes this season?
What
Mike,
was his last season?
2,162.
Yeah, he was second on the team in minutes only. I think only Bernardeschi played more minutes than he did.
Correct.
That's crazy.
I think he will. Can I go even? No, I have to pick.
Are you trying to game the system?
Yeah, I am trying to game the system.
Yeah,
no, I think it'll be under, but not like significantly under. And it's just because he just won't start as many games as he did last year.
Yeah.
So he'll be under that, but like it'll be like 1,600. Like it won't be a significant number under that.
It's got to be under. It's got to be under. That's an insane amount of minutes like that he played last year, and we all know why. It's got to be under. I don't think it's going to be that much under, but it's going to be under. 2160 is mental.
Yeah, pretty universal here saying under. Aaron throwing in an audible here saying over because Canada actually qualifies for the Copa America. Fingers crossed, big game coming up.
Oh, Aaron,
Mhm.
love it, love it.
It's a good
call.
shout.
That is a good show.
You know, people competing with him at his position is Bernardeschi, Larea, Raul Petretta, Jaquil
Jaquil.
Marcheretti. You can throw into that mix. I'm gonna go over. I think
Wow.
I think Herdman values Kobe Franklin. He was the first guy off the bench when Lorenzo Insigne, was subbed off at halftime. I think he really values him. I think right now he's the first or second guy off the bench for Toronto FC. So I'm gonna go over. I think
Okay,
so.
fair.
Mhm. Ouch, Danny's
Yeah,
just
I'm-
throwing. Bob isn't here to play him at every position anymore. Start learning Halifax, buddy. Ouch.
rude.
Ouch.
Hey, come on. This is
Yo.
Kobe Franklin slander free zone, man.
Yeah, it's Kobe
Exactly.
Franklin season, guys. I don't know if you got the memo. Yeah, next.
All right. So Jonathan Osorio. This is a guy
Oso.
who
Speaking
up higher.
of-
He's...
Mhm.
Sorry, you saying something?
Yeah, throwing out the pause quote in the post-game huddle that close to earshot of Sean Johnson. If Sean Johnson, they can't find him for the home opener because he's curled up in a fetal position in his apartment, it's Oso's fault. You don't use the effing good team in front of Sean Johnson. He pause has his soul. You don't remind me of that. Anyway.
Hey man, it was
moving
a
on.
long time ago where we used to hear that
Man, you
quote,
got
and
it.
goddamn times were much better then.
Yeah.
So anyways, Ozo had 6 assists last 2 seasons actually.
Yeah.
So in 2023 and 2022, he registered 6 assists. He was limited in his appearances due to various injuries. He had 7 assists in 2018, 7 in 2015, and the years in between that, he kind of fell pretty, well short of that. Maybe around 2, 3, 1 assist. So I'm setting the over under right now for Jonathan Osorio assists at 5.5. He's playing higher up the pitch this year.
Yeah.
So over under 5.5. Jonathan Osorio assists this season. Jeff, let's start with you.
Over. Yeah, because he's playing higher up the pitch. Oh, and he's wearing the armband. And he's not afraid to quote pause in front of Sean Johnson. The man's an animal. So, over. I think over. It is interesting, though, because his career year was 2018, right? And he only had 7.
He scored a lot.
He scored a lot.
He scored a lot. Yeah, that's what I'll say over, but I won't be shocked if it's under because I think he might score a little bit more this season just because, again, he's a little further up the pitch. May make those late runs in the box, which he's really good at, and score. But just for the sake of it, I'll go over.
Yeah, a lot of chat's really optimistic about Jonathan Osorio and about Toronto FC scoring goals in general. I mean, that means you guys know that means
feels like last
you're
year.
Gonna have to score 6 goals in order for him to hit that over. I don't know if TFC.
Yeah, what was it? What was it last year between Lolo and Berna? We were going to score something like 66 goals, if memory serves. Yeah.
I'm with you guys. I'll go over too. I think he's going to be in positions to create a lot more, and I think his head issues are, knock on wood, and pray that they're behind him, and we'll see more minutes for Jonathan Osorio this season. Okay, so next up, Sigurd Rosted.
Ooh,
Sigurd Rost.
This one's a really interesting one. So, right now he hasn't featured for a game for Toronto FC this season. He was one of our first center back options last season.
He came on as a sub in the opener, no?
Did he?
No.
I think he did.
Did he?
Yeah, I think he came in late.
Oh, he might have.
Yeah, I think he came in late as a sub.
He might have. Yeah, he might have actually.
Okay.
Anyways, that doesn't affect the over-under at all.
Yes, true.
So
true.
the number that I put in there was 12.5 starts for Sigurd Rosted. Is he going to make more than or at least 13 starts this year for Toronto FC? And for context, last year he started 18 games. He dealt with some injuries, some other things going on. So will Sigurd Rosted make 13 starts this season? Mike, let's start with you.
This is a tough one. Oh, this is a tough one because I can very much see a world where he does get 13 starts. It'll be scattered throughout the year as you're covering international lab breaks and you're covering, just players who need rest on short
Leagues Cup,
rest.
baby.
Yeah. Does he get 13 of them though? I'm gonna go under. Slightly under. I don't know if he'll get 13 starts. He'll get enough appearances. I just don't know if he'll be starts.
Jeff?
This is all comps, right? So including Can Champ, including Leagues Cup, including US Open Cup, where he'll get most of his starts because, of course, we're playing in that competition now. I'm going to go under.
Wait, Toronto FC
you
are
say
playing
we're
in the US Open Cup?
I was
Playing in the US
joking.
Open. Oh, okay.
I'm very good.
Dude, your jokes suck
joking.
today, man.
Yeah, I know. Seriously. This is an off day for me. I'm not into
I'm
it.
just kidding.
I'm probably going to have a cold tomorrow. And I'm definitely going to cry after this show. Just letting everybody know.
So you said under?
Yeah, it's got to be under. It's got to be
Under?
under. We've got better guys in front of him. Hopefully they stay healthy, knock on wood.
Yeah, I'm gonna go over.
Wow.
For the reasons Mike kind of laid out initially, I think there's going to be some rotation here that's going to be necessary. Between now and May, I think Herdman pointed out is TFC just play once a week. But once May rolls around, the schedule becomes a lot more congested. And we saw what happened last season. All it takes is an injury or two, and you're put in a position where, a guy like Sigurd Rosted has to come in and fill a need for this team. So he's going to be battling with M.M. Babika too, who I think had a strong preseason according to John Herdman. So yeah, we'll see. Yeah, I'm happy flag that you have a little bit of a crush in the chat.
Yeah.
Mike Newell has the greatest laugh. I agree.
My rants are terrible. I have the worst jokes today, and you, sir, have the greatest laugh and smile. So you need to take that all the way to the bank, buy all the lottery
that
tickets.
to my wife, who's not thrilled with me at the moment.
Do you want to talk about something, Mike?
Nah.
We're all here for you. Look, can we just turn this into a therapy session?
Yeah.
We're
She
all
never
here
tells you
for
have a
you.
great
All
laugh
100
and
of our
smile anymore, huh?
It's all right.
Live viewers.
Get on with that canola, man.
All right, let's go.
All right, last one. Iowa Canola. So last season, he obviously had no goals. He had 2 goals in 2022, 3 in 2021, and then, of course, 9 in 2020. So hasn't been a great start to the year for Io. He's, right now behind the depth chart, I think behind Prince Owosu. So I am putting explains why Mike is in an empty beige room right now.
I'm dying. I am deceased. All right. Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
No, I'm still laughing at Danny going, I don't even know what the question is, but under. Damn, catching straight.
I am setting his over-under goals at 2.5 goals this year, all competition. Can Io Akinola hit 3 goals this year in all competitions?
Yeah, I'll say sure. Sure.
Yeah?
Yeah. Why not?
You don't sound too confident.
What do you mean I don't sound too? I think he can. I think he can hit 3 goals. Like, I know he had none last year.
I don't think he can. Will he?
I think he can.
The little Io that could. I think he can.
No, I think he will. I think he will. Like, in all competitions, like, he'll probably get starts in, like, the Canadian Championship. Like, I think he'll get opportunities. Against Simcoe Rovers. Yeah.
Aaron says he's going to nab the hat trick against Simcoe Rovers, so that'll do it.
Yeah.
Right, like... why not? Like, if he gets to the Canadian Championship, between him and DeAndre, they'll probably have to start, the Can Champ games, and he could bundle in 3 goals.
Jeff?
I really want him to. I'm going to say over because I hope that he's going to get more minutes for this beginning stretch, right? I think if it's going to happen for him, he's got to sort of get into form right now. So
Before the transfer window and stuff?
Well, just before whatever the cutoff that the imaginary arbitrary cutoff that Herdman's put in, when suddenly fixture congestion happens and we can't be waiting for people to hit form anymore. So I think, God, it's only 3 goals, man. I know goals are coming at a premium, but I want it for him. I'm gonna say over, just for vibes. This is my vibes pick.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, look, we're all rooting for these guys to smash all these overs, but for me, I'm going under with Io. Reason being, I think these first 2 matches, he saw a lot more opportunity than I think he's actually going to see this season. Given the fact that DeAndre Kerr was out, and I think DeAndre Kerr probably slots in as our starting number 9 when everybody's fit and healthy, and then you most likely have Prince Owusu who comes in and substitutes in for the match. And, can I play one of those maybe advanced midfield roles, play as a secondary striker, perhaps? But I think minutes are going to be tougher to come by for Io. And I don't think he necessarily showed enough to, overtake Prince for that spot.
I don't think Prince did either. And to me, it's like a flip a coin as to who you want to give the minutes to, right? Like, yeah,
it's closer. It's closer than probably it probably was when the season started. But that said, I still think Prince has the edge. It goes to show he started both games, right? I think he has.
Yeah. At least with his sitter, he got on the ball. Like my difficulty with Io is that he's always in the wrong place when the attack starts. He's never in the right place for how they want to organize their attack. He's always somewhere else. And I think that doesn't bode very well because the drills aren't working, right? Like he's still kind of like a lost puppy out there. Owusu, headed it wrong, but he was there to get it. So, but you also have to have some faith that of all the reclamation projects on this roster, aside from maybe the DPs, Herdman's got the most invested in Io. He feels a certain responsibility for rehabilitating Io, getting him back on track, getting him back into form. So, again, we won't know, but the clock is ticking. I agree with you. It is. He's not shown very well.
Yeah, I don't disagree with either one of you. I will say just in terms of just the first 2 games this season, obviously last year was last year, but Io was subbed into kind of like thankless striker role where you kind of have to, you're not going to get a lot of chances. You're not going to have the ball a lot. You're not going to have your creative players really trying to create anything for you.
Mm-hmm.
So from that perspective, of course, no, it's not going to show well. But I will also, as I said earlier in the show, like he wasn't holding the ball up all that well, right? So
exactly,
there is that. But I think he'll get maybe another sort of crack when you're home and you're trying to attack, and he can kind of show himself in the box and see where we go from there. But of all the over-unders, if he doesn't get the 3 goals, this is the one I won't be necessarily surprised about.
Yeah, the good news is for Io is if you've seen our history when it comes to over-unders, the history's on your side.
10 goals this year.
Yeah.
10 goals.
Yeah.
Hands up.
So Newell, you're under as well?
No, I was over. I actually said
so I'm over, you're over, and Singh is under for
I'm
Io?
under.
Yeah.
You're over, Jeff?
Yeah, I'm over.
Okay.
Oh no. Was I over?
Yeah, you said over. You said over.
Yeah, I'm a vibes pick. Yeah. This is my vibes.
Your
it's your vibes pick. Nice.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll do 5 more next week on the show
as we gather more information.
Yes, as we gather more intel and try not to be
horribly
wrong.
I'd like us to still be doing over unders at the last game of the season on decision day. I think that would be absolutely hilarious. All right, so we're finally getting to Sean Johnson. That would be too funny.
Yeah.
Is it burning question time?
Yeah, burning question time. Let's do it.
All right.
The burning question presented by no one. Just wanted to ask how you guys are feeling ahead of the 2024 home opener. Like we said at the beginning, vibes are strong. People are, they're picking up what this team's putting down, at least in the first 2 games. So a couple of really good comments here. Raymond Hope just coming in saying, loving the play off the ball. It's what we'd expect from our Herdman squad. Question is, do we have the depth and stamina to leg it out all season? trust me, Raymond, this probably will not be the final form of the team come the end of the season. Definitely, they're trying to move players out and get some players in. Sandra just mentioning the difference in fighting for the team is quite noticeable, isn't it? O'Neill has really stepped up from what I remember. Johnson has been superb. We made some good additions. Still need a striker, and that was a common theme again through the comments as well. And then this one is about the DPs, so we'll end off on this. Ellie just coming in saying the Italians were right about everything last season. Period. Period. Okay, we'll end on this.
Yeah, we should.
And we'll just end on terms of, were they right? I mean, look, somebody asked, somebody mentioned at Toronto Till I Die on Twitter, X, whatever you call it these days, and said, "Hey guys, are you changing your minds about the DPs?" In
They're really talking to me. They're
really talking to you. Yes, that's true. But I also got some of this as well, and I was like, listen, I can forgive when the effort's there and they're buying in. I'm never gonna forget though what they did. And I think that's kind of fair, but obviously, Jeff, Mike, I want to get your thoughts on sort of this. Are people the Italian reclamation project that seems to be going on right now?
Yeah, like for me, when people say, were they right? Right to cause an eruption within the squad.
My point exactly. My point
Be
exactly.
a distraction, right to kind of not do all the right things on the pitch. No, I mean they weren't right. This team will only go as far as the Italians will take them. That's how this team is constructed. That's how the roster is constructed. So if the Italians don't feel like showing up to training to be there 100%, if they feel like throwing a fit behind the scenes, it's going to affect this team's performance.
100%.
If the Italians can buy in and John Herdman gets them to buy in and they're truly committed to being a part of Toronto FC, then you could see a little bit more success. But it's going to take more than 2 games to convince me that these guys are 100% back and 100% committed. It's a long season, right? There's going to be ups and downs, be adversity they have to kind of go through. So I want to see kind of what this team looks like in a couple months time. I want to see what this team looks like when they knock on wood, but when
adversity.
They do concede, when they do concede late in the game, or when they do go through a run where they're winless in 3 games, and that frustration starts to boil.
I want to see their commitment when they get an inkling that there's some interest in Italy again, because there was none over the transfer window. This performance, we're all knee-jerk speculation people, and the transfer market is very speculative. I want to see how committed they are when there is maybe inklings of the potential move that they wanted that was never happening. But I'm going to be honest, I don't care what their motivation is, because in a bubble where I'm approaching this completely objectively, I don't care if they score because they're trying to cure cancer, or if they score because they want to move to another club. The only reason I do now is because we've got a peek under the curtain. So I'm going to pull back a little bit. I don't care what their motivation is. As long as they're doing this, I'm happy. I really am. This is what I wanted. Like, of course, there's a lot of room for improvement, and this idea that we bought a guy that will play 45 minutes occasionally at the highest salary, it's a bit of a bummer, but these are minute concerns. Like I said it in my column for WTR, 45 minutes of Lorenzo versus 90 plus minutes of the other guy. I take the former 10 times out of 10. So,
Yeah. And like I said, worth really emphasizing and noting that what Jeff was touching on there. It's not, nobody wants to go back to last season. I think that includes the Italians, right? Nobody enjoyed last season. So now when things go wrong, or now when, you see them out on the pitch, I think they've hopefully have learned from that and better understand what it means to be, a losing team at times in Major League Soccer. What it feels like to lose games. They hate it, sure, but they also understand that if you let that spiral and ripple, perhaps it can, lead to what it transpired last season. So hopefully now when that time comes, they'll be better equipped to be in that position to be true leaders for this Toronto FC team, because that's, like I said, that's just the way the team's built. So they have to be. TFC are making their bed with the Italians, and hopefully last year was more of a lesson that they can build off.
Yeah, I think you both said it eloquently, and that kind of leaves it there. Other than that, I'll say that, look, if they're raising the tide of all the boats of TFC, I'm happy. I can forgive, but do not expect me to forget how they almost mutinied this entire team, and in a lot of ways the club, and made us a bit of a laughing stock for a year. I will not forget that. And
I can't.
Even if it goes on and we have a successful season and win an MLS Cup, I will be happy. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to sit here and pout and complain, but I'm also not going to forget that either. That is a part of the legacy of whatever they leave here at TFC whenever they eventually.
Let me ask you, would you take last year in exchange for another star on the kit this year?
Such a good question. I'll tell you this. I have this conversation often with Martin Bailey, who I saw today, strangely enough, and he's and we're both in agreement. We would have been okay with a decade of crap had we won CONCACAF Champions League in 2018. Like, we would have rested on our laurels with that for a long time. We would have been just fine with the pain that we've experienced. To answer your question, I would be just fine with another star.
Yeah.
It's
a tough one, man.
I'm the opposite. I get I get it. I want another star. Don't get me wrong. I very much want another star, but the reputation of what we're trying to build, what we're trying to be as an organization, that matters a lot. And it's hard to get one without the other, if that makes sense, right? Because we're talking about the fact that, just give me a second. You're talking about an offseason where we couldn't sign free agents, where, we were going after certain targets and they didn't want to sign, or the deals didn't get done, for whatever reason. But part of that reason is that people looked at this franchise and were like, why would I want to do that? And we've been there before. It's not like this franchise has never been there before. We've been in that situation in the past, right? So, would I have taken another season of what we had last year and then trade it in the next season? Let's just say we win MLS Cup. Let's just say this season it all works out. We win MLS Cup. Will I be happy? Yes. Are you asking me, do I have to go through that to get this? I'm not sure I necessarily want that. Again.
I keep thinking about the way. Why it's a tougher question. I keep thinking about the way Michael Bradley was treated throughout this whole ordeal, right? And we've spoken at length about what Michael Bradley meant to Toronto FC and what he kind of sacrificed to be part of Toronto FC. So I don't need to kind of go in depth there, but it's certain things that were that bigger than just one season, right? It's
bigger than just one star.
I will say this because
I get it, but sorry, Jeff. I want to win a championship. Don't get me wrong. I want another star. I want to win another championship. Will I do it at any cost? Will I do it at the cost of our club being the asshole club? I'm not sure. That's just me personally. I know a lot of people are not going to agree with me on that, but that's just how I feel. Sorry, Jeff.
It's a good conversation.
Okay, so I'm seeing it already. Davy Flores is amazing. He's perfect, and I love him. Is he better than prime Michael Bradley? Absolutely not. But I actually think he's a bit of a hybrid of the Bradley, Marky Delgado kind of player. Beyond that, one thing that the presence of Davy Flores has put into sharp relief is that Michael Bradley's decline over the last couple of years was pronounced. He stayed too long, and some of that is on him. So he's got to wear some of how it ended in a way that we weren't prepared when we were hopping mad before. We weren't prepared to own up to. Now that the smoke is cleared a little bit, we can see that everybody got a little bit too comfortable. It wasn't just the club. It was also Michael Bradley, and so I think the legacy needs to be recontextualized. I think it needs more time for the smoke to clear. I think that because he was so important to the club, you need to give more thought to his legacy than just knee-jerk reactions, and it needs more time. It didn't end the way that we expected. Most endings don't, not most endings are a surprise to the people that are on the ground floor of it. I for me, what do they call it? The David Gass theorem, that like big imports into MLS take a year, usually need a season to settle. We could be very well looking at the TFC story in 5 years being like, well, it was just their first year, right? Everything else is glossed over. Nobody remembers the Athletic article ever again. It's like their first year, there were some growing pains, and then they kicked ass year 2, right? That could be the narrative because it's an easy one. So, I think we've been hurt. That can't be glossed over, and we don't really have the bandwidth right now to not be hurt. But God, this is a good start towards not being hurt anymore.
Fair. That's all fair. That's all fair. And all the comments in the chat, all fair as well. Hey, in the end of the day, stars on the badge, we'll smile, and sort of pound the back. Again, I'm just not forgetting. But we'll leave it at that. Thank you for tuning into another Toronto Till I Die. Favor to ask. We're on Instagram. Give us a follow there. It would mean a lot. Just follow us at TTID Show. You can search us there and give us a follow. We're also on the platforms, the Twitters and all that. Just search Toronto Till I Die. And you can find us there as well. If you're watching live, thumbs up, subscribe. Most of you sickos already are, so that's great. We love you. Thank you for so much participation in the chat. And then those
chat
were
was on fire today.
Yeah, it was. And those are listening on pod as well. Just a rate and review as well. That would be amazing as well. But for Michael Singh, for Jeffrey P. Nesker, I'm Mike Newell. We'll see you next week, everybody. Cheers.
Yeah. Enjoy the home opener.
Absolutely.
Cheers, everyone.
And wait, and baby, I'm TFC till I die.